This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 26th day of January in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. Focusing heavily on infrastructural development and increased support for the major sectors, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, unveiled the government's $552.9 billion budget this afternoon in the National Assembly. The budget represents a 44.3% increase over last year's budget, with a 36.6% increase over last year's total expenditure. The Minister of Finance in his presentation announced that several efforts will be undertaken this year to ease the cost of living. There will be increased support in public assistance programs, as well as an increase in the income tax threshold.
Mr. Speaker, along with all of the other measures proposed to increase disposable incomes, our government would also like to provide additional relief to taxpayers. In this regard, we are proposing to increase the monthly income tax threshold from $65,000 to $75,000 monthly. This releases immediately, sir, into the hands of current taxpayers a total of $1.3 billion of additional disposable income.
There was no mention of salary increases for public servants in the budget, although that could come later this year. It was announced that the old age pension will be increased by $3,000 to $28,000 per month, while public assistance to disabled persons will also see increases this year, as well as increases in the education grants. In an effort to reduce transportation and associated costs, the Minister of Finance announced a reduction in the excise tax on fuel from the current 20% to 10%. The tax was reduced twice in the past year to cushion the effects of rising international prices. The education sector will see allocations amounting to $74.4 billion, which will continue the government's education strategic plan for the period 2021 to 2025. This year's budget will see the allocation of $6.6 billion towards the construction, rehabilitation, extension, and maintenance of educational facilities, which includes the start of construction of the Prospect Secondary School and reconstruction of the North Ruimveldt and Northwest Secondary Schools, which were both destroyed by fire last year.
Improving school building infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, $5.4 billion was spent on the construction, extension, rehabilitation, and maintenance of educational facilities. In 2022, we have allocated a further $6.6 billion towards the construction, rehabilitation, extension, and maintenance of our education facilities. This includes the commencement of construction of Prospect Secondary, reconstruction of North Ruimveldt and Northwest Secondary Schools, both destroyed by fire.
The health sector will see an allocation of $73.2 billion, which will go towards various initiatives, including the construction of health facilities, improved training, and increased efforts to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic and other diseases. The Minister of Finance said he believes that this year's budget will be seen as a budget that launched the transformation of Guyana.
Whether it is an investment in promoting the arts and the culture, it would be recalled that an announcement was made earlier regarding an allocation of $100 million to establish a National Endowment Fund for the Arts and promote the arts and culture. Whether it be investment in strengthening the institutions of state, like the judiciary, whether it be strengthening the security sector to ensure that our citizens are safer. In every respect, sir, if one were to peruse every sector within Budget 2022, one will see that this budget heralds a dramatic change in course for us, change in trajectory for us.
More on the budget when we return. Stay with us.
What is fiber? Think exceptional. GTT Fiber is an advanced high-speed internet product that delivers broadband via fiber optic cables with download speeds of up to 150 megabits per second. It means your internet is faster, and GTT Fiber comes with the added coverage of our Plume HomePass Wi-Fi system. Plume extends your Wi-Fi signal to ensure that you have the best experience in every corner of your home with Wi-Fi everywhere. Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo, under the theme Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, will be hosted at the Guyana Marriott from the 15th to the 18th of February 2022. Meet and engage with energy leaders from around the world. The conference will feature addresses from His Excellency President Irfan Ali, His Excellency Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, Honorable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santoki, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Motley, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, and many other highly esteemed speakers. Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Mobil Dalvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Mobil Dalvac and all other mobile lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc.
Mom, what are you doing with GPL on your list?
Child, you forgot I have to pay GPL?
You got time with GPL.
I have to keep these lights on. The customers who think in that manner and refuse to honor their obligation to GPL are obviously not playing their part in ensuring quality service delivery. So, I will continue to pay my GPL bill on time, every time.
I recognize the value of your point, Mom. You were right.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
Welcome back. APNU AFC Member of Parliament Joe Harmon tendered his resignation today as the leader of the opposition, with immediate effect. Party sources confirmed this morning that Mr. Harmon tendered that resignation as opposition leader to the Speaker of the National Assembly, as well as to the leader of the PNC and APNU Chairman Aubrey Norton and the leader of the Alliance for Change, Kemraj Ramjatan. While Mr. Harmon has resigned as the opposition leader, he's expected to maintain his seat in the National Assembly and is likely to remain as a frontbencher in the Assembly on behalf of the opposition. His resignation sets the stage for the election of a new leader of the opposition. The People's National Congress Reform has indicated that it wants its leader Aubrey Norton to become a member of Parliament and to be elevated to the post of opposition leader. For Norton to become a member of Parliament, it would mean that one of the current MPs sitting in the House on behalf of the PNC and APNU might have to be replaced with Norton. The opposition has been moving like clockwork in the past few days, setting the stage for a new opposition leader. On Monday, former PNC leader David Granger indicated that he would be stepping down from the position of chairman of the APNU. He kept his word and stepped down from the position one day later on Tuesday morning as he met with the other top members of the APNU. At the time, Mr. Harmon also indicated that he would be stepping down as General Secretary of the APNU. Immediately, the PNC leader Aubrey Norton was elected to the position of chairman of the APNU. The People's National Congress is the largest party in the APNU-AFC coalition. Norton and Harman have been in talks about the position of opposition leader over the past few weeks, after Norton's big win in the elections for party leader at the PNC Congress back in December. Mr. Norton, who has been long respected as a firebrand politician, is being seen by supporters as the person who could lead a more responsive opposition in the National Assembly. On the education front, the government will be increasing its Because We Care cash grant to school children to $25,000, which represents an increase of $10,000, the Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh announced today during his budget presentation. In 2021, the government extended the cash grant to both private and public schools. It has made similar provisions in this year's budget.
Mr. Speaker, I am now pleased to announce that we will increase that grant further from $15,000 per child to $25,000 per child. Mr. Speaker, this will place in the homes of those 200,000 children going to school in public, and I hasten to add now for the avoidance of doubt, and in private schools. This will place in the hands of those parents a total of $2 billion.
The Minister of Finance said government has historically placed the highest importance on supporting parents in ensuring that their children attend school. One such measure that was introduced is the annual uniform grant given to parents of each school-aged child. To this end, the Finance Minister announced an increase of $1,000 for the uniform voucher. In 2014, the PP Civic government launched the Because We Care cash grant, aimed at providing support to parents with school-aged children. It was brought to an end the same year, and the coalition government never reintroduced it. The PP Civic returned to power in 2020 and brought the cash grant back last year. Turning now to the security sector, with the construction of a new Brigdan police station high on the agenda, the government has allocated a whopping $4.9 billion to the Guyana Police Force in this year's budget. In his budget speech this afternoon, the Minister of Finance announced that works will commence on a multi-story building to consolidate the operations of the Brigdan police station, which was gutted by fire in October of last year. $400 million has been allocated for that construction. Minister Singh also announced that as part of security enhancement, more money will be plugged into the Safe City program, which will see more CCTV cameras being set up across the city and around the country.
Additionally, the role of ICT in our security and crime-fighting capabilities cannot be overemphasized. In this regard, $2.5 billion has been allocated to expand the Safe City program beyond the boundaries of Georgetown. This program will see the entire country being connected to CCTV cameras, monitored centrally, as well as at the regional command centers to be established across the country.
The Minister of Finance also announced the allocation of $99 million to resuscitate and support community policing groups. He said $120 million has also been budgeted this year for the training of police ranks, while additional ranks will be added to ensure greater coverage across communities in the country. Dr. Singh said training in the areas of crime and traffic management will continue to be facilitated both locally as well as with international institutions. Although the sugar industry remains under decline, the government will be pumping more money into the industry in its revitalization efforts. The Minister of Finance announced the allocation of $6 billion to support the Guyana Sugar Corporation's field and factory operations in hopes of turning the industry around. For over a decade, Guyana has been operating at a loss, but billions of tax dollars continue to be pumped into the industry to bail it out of its financial crisis. The Minister of Finance, during his budget presentation this afternoon, said the government's commitment to the sugar industry remains intact. He said the government has been proactive in focusing on reopening and recapitalizing the closed estates, as well as rationalizing cost structures.
Since resuming office, our government has been proactive in focusing on reopening and recapitalizing the closed estates, rationalizing cost structures, diversifying the sugar sales mix to maximize earnings, re-engaging previously displaced workers, and repositioning the industry on a sustainable path to profitability. Since taking office in August 2020, the focus has been on rehabilitation of assets and retooling of the estates. Looking ahead at 2022, strategic investments will be made at Albion, Blairmont, and Iflot to upgrade and mechanize where appropriate, and to expand packaging capabilities to produce more value-added products for our domestic and international markets.
Dr. Singh said the continued investments in the sugar industry will be undertaken with the ultimate objective of ensuring that each estate is able to be back up and running in the future.
Gaisuco will be concentrating its marketing efforts on shifting from the low-value bulk sugar markets to more bagged and packaged sugar products. To this end, these products will increase from 34% in 2020 to 64% of total production in 2022.
The finance minister said that since taking office, over 1,300 sugar workers who were dismissed under the previous government have been reemployed. The sugar workers who received their severance pay under the APNU-AFC government when they were dismissed received additional cash support from the PP Civic government last year. Now let's tell you that the government has allocated $76.7 billion for roads and bridges in this year's budget. Of that amount, $49.2 billion will be spent on roads and $27.5 billion on bridges. The Minister of Finance announced that key allocations include the provisions of $8.3 billion for the rehabilitation of the Quarantine Main Road from Palmyra to Crabwood Creek and $6 billion for the construction of the Linden to Mabura Hill Road. $3.4 billion has been set aside for hinterland roads, including $2.6 billion for the rehabilitation of the entire Suze Dyke Linden Highway and $2.3 billion for the East Bank to East Coast to Marara Road linkage between Ogle and Eccles. It was also announced that the construction of the 4-lane Ogle to Higbosh Road will begin this year, creating another road access which will further reduce the current traffic chaos and congestion along the East Bank corridor. Additionally, works will also commence to widen and pave the East Bank Highway from Grove to Mary, for which $2.1 billion has been allocated in the budget. The Minister of Finance announced that $21.1 billion has also been allocated to advance the construction of the new fixed 4-lane high-span Demerara River Bridge, while $946 million has been budgeted to rehabilitate and maintain the aged existing floating bridge. The Director of Public Prosecutions is standing by her decision to recommend a charge of manslaughter and not murder against a policeman fingered in the shooting death of Essequibo businessman Orrin Boston. The DPP was requested by the attorney for the Boston family, Nigel Hughes, to relook at the case and update that charge to murder. But in response to that request, the DPP has indicated that her recommendation was based on the evidence that was submitted in the file by the police. 2 weeks ago, police SWAT unit member Sherwin Peters was charged for manslaughter, 4 months after the Essequibo businessman Orrin Boston was shot dead during a police SWAT operation. Immediately, the dead man's family and community rejected the manslaughter charge and reminded that the businessman was in his bed sleeping when the SWAT unit burst into his home and he was shot dead. Attorney Nigel Hughes maintains that based on the wife's statement and the statements of other witnesses, a murder charge should have been instituted in the matter. The attorney is now likely to move to the High Court in an effort to force the DPP to upgrade the charge, now that she has indicated an unwillingness to budge from her earlier advice. Last week, protests erupted in Dartmouth, Essequibo over the killing as residents and many of the citizens who knew the businessman rejected the manslaughter charge and the granting of bail to the accused. The family has said they intend to go through all available avenues to ensure justice is served in the matter. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc.
Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo under the theme Charting a Sustainable Energy Future will be hosted at the Guyana Marriott from the 15th to the 18th of February 2022. Meet and engage with energy leaders from around the world. The conference will feature addresses from His Excellency President Irfan Ali, His Excellency Vice President Bharat Jagdeo, Honorable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, His Excellency Chandrika Prasad Santoki, Honorable Prime Minister Mia Motley, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, and many other highly esteemed speakers. Charting a Sustainable Energy Future, Guyana's 2022 International Energy Conference and Expo.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Dollar, come get your Buster, Buster $100.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, Cuba has rejected accusations by rights groups and diplomats that its court system had unfairly jailed protesters following widespread unrest on the island in July, defending recent trials as just and in line with Cuban law. The July 11 to 12 protests, the largest such rallies since Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution, saw thousands take to the streets in towns and cities across the island. Many voiced anger at the communist-run government and shortages of food, medicine, and electricity at a time when coronavirus cases had soared. The protests were largely peaceful, although state media showed some demonstrators looting and throwing stones at the police. They were followed by a flurry of arrests. The Cuban prosecutor's office said on Tuesday that it had thus far charged 710 people with crimes including vandalism, assault against people or property, and grave public disorder. Human rights groups, the US government, and the European Union have slammed the trials of the protesters, saying they lack transparency and that long jail sentences were disproportionate with the crimes committed. Cuba's state prosecutor on Tuesday said those accusations were manipulations of public opinion. Ecuador's President Guillermo Lasso has announced that he will seek to disconnect the handover of crude from outstanding debt to China during a visit to the Asian country next month, part of his plan to renegotiate some $4.1 billion in debt. In the last decade, China has become Ecuador's primary financial partner, with crude for credit agreements, open credit arrangements, and multi-million-dollar investments in the mining industry and dams. But the president said that he will seek to renegotiate the $4.1 billion of Ecuador's debt to China with his counterpart, President Xi Jinping. Another $500 million in credit is part of long-term contracts with more favorable interest rates and will not be negotiated, he said. Ecuador has signed 16 contracts for crude with Asian oil companies, which are tied to loans from Chinese banks in conditions considered by analysts to be unfavorable to Ecuador. The South American country still has to turn over 160 million barrels of crude to the Asian companies by 2024. And finally tonight, international news. The United States has issued its formal response to Russia's demands over the crisis on the Ukraine border. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the proposal offers a serious diplomatic path forward should Russia choose it. But he has warned that the U.S. was acting with equal focus to bolster Ukraine's defense. Mr. Blinken also urged U.S. citizens in Ukraine to seriously consider leaving the country, echoing earlier guidance. Russia had issued a written list of its concerns about the expansion of the NATO military alliance and related security issues. Among them was a demand for NATO to rule out the possibility of Ukraine and others ever joining the alliance. In recent weeks, Russia has been amassing large numbers of troops on the Ukraine border, something which Western countries have seen as preparation for a possible invasion. Russia has denied that. The U.S. Secretary of State said the U.S. response made its core principles clear, including Ukraine's sovereignty and its right to choose to be part of security alliances such as NATO. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.